everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I've had a very special bonsai pot for a long time, many years, and I've just never had the right tree to plant in it until this hemlock came along. This planter has like a nursery log on it, and I thought the hemlock would be perfect growing over top of this nursery log. Kind of a traditional scene that you would see in the Canadian wilderness. Here is a look at the Canadian hemlock I'll be using. Quite a beautiful tree. The buds are swelling. It's a perfect time to repot it. Here is a look at the pot I'll be planting the tree in. It's quite a large pot for the size of the tree. So this represents a nursery log with some typical Canadian wildlife. This may be one of the more scary plantings I've ever created. I've got the pot, I've got the tree. I'm all ready to create a scene straight out of a National Geographic magazine. This pot doesn't have any drainage holes in the bottom, so I'll have to water it thoroughly and then tip it up to drain the excess water out. And if it's really raining hard outside, I'll just bring it into the greenhouse so it keeps the moisture level quite consistent in the soil. I'm ready to get the hemlock tree out of the soil, so I'll loosen it up on the sides here. I've never repotted this tree before, so this is the very first time I've worked on it, other than doing a bit of pruning up top. So here I go, I'm going to get the tree out of the pot. So it looks like it's growing in some good bonsai soil. And I'll begin raking out the roots. So I can see some of the roots are just beginning to whiten up at the tip, so they're just beginning to grow. But most of them, it looks like, are dormant. It's only the ones on the very outside of the pot that are growing because they get a bit of warmth there. So I'm sure it'll be fine repotting it at this time of the year. You know, probably a week earlier would have been better, but I was sick with a cold then. So you just do what you can do. You can see all these roots haven't started to grow yet. There's a lot of moss at the base of the tree here. I'll just peel that away. It is a rainy day outside today. Now there's a little Tsuga seedling here beside the hemlock, so I'm going to pull that out like that. I've got most of the roots with that, and I can plant that in a separate pot. So this tree was from Chris Hendry's place. I got it quite a few years ago, and I believe he grew it from seed. And it was much smaller when I got it, but it's been growing very well. And I think this tree will match the pot really well. It's, I'm hoping. It's something I won't know until I, finally try the composition out. There's a lot of factors in this planting. The bear, the log, and the tree that all have to work together in harmony. Okay, so there's a lot of long roots here. Too many roots, so I'm going to, give them a trim. All right, it's time to prune the roots. I haven't washed the roots. I don't really need to. The bonsai soil came out just fine. So I think somewhere about here, we'll leave enough roots on and I'll prune off the long ones. So here I go, just kind of doing a prune to shorten all these long roots so I can fit it in the new pot. So I think that's quite good. If you look at the volume of the pot, I could maybe reduce it on the bottom here a little more. Yeah, I think that'll work quite nicely. I'll just comb out these bottom roots. Just to kind of get them fanning out a bit. Yeah, I think that's going good. I'll just prune some of these roots that are going a funny direction here too. Ones that have hit the sides of the pot and are starting to grow down. Okay. So I think that's good. I think I can get the tree in there successfully. So I'll have to preload the pot up with soil and then kind of work it in through the opening. All right, here goes my base layer of soil in the pot. So I'll very carefully fit it in there. This is a lot like one of Nick Lentz's trees, where he has a ball-shaped pot with an opening in the top, and everything has to be done through the one opening. Okay, so next I've got to fit the tree in the pot. So this will be interesting. So I'm going to have to kind of get the roots in on that side first. And then I'll use my chopstick to work those roots into the pot. Nice, that's going in nicely. So the roots are fitting in really nicely. I'm just kind of arranging the roots so they're in a nice radial pattern. And now I've got to step back and have a look at the composition. I'm stepping back, having a look at the composition. I do like the composition. I think, you know, I've got the thicker trunk kind of going off to the left side, which counterbalances the animal over here. This branch here is kind of interfering with the ear of the bear, so I'll have to do a little pruning. I'll take that back to here, like that, and maybe just give it a little more room out front, like that. I think that's a little better balanced. I'm going to use my little tiny shovel here and work the soil into the root base, kind of filling up this nursery log very carefully, and using my chopstick and working that in. So this is very, detailed work. It's probably why a pot like this isn't used very often in bonsai, because of the, the work involved in preparing the tree in the pot. But if you're the kind of person who loves, the artistic side of bonsai, and you're willing to put the hard work in, you can end up with a beautiful composition like this in the end. I think this tree is developed enough that I could put it in the Toronto Bonsai Society's spring show this year. I think it's ready. I'll have to see how many trees I'm putting in the show, and if I've got space in the car, I'll definitely include this in the show. I think it's, something that will be appreciated. It's not often you see hemlocks kind of in a natural environment, sort of like a little penging display. To me, this planting represents, the two aspects of the wilderness, the beauty of the wilderness and then the danger of the wilderness too, with the wild animals. Mother Nature can be very beautiful, but also very cruel. So the tree is in there really firm now. I'm just working the soil in around the roots, making sure there's no air pockets. It's looking quite good. So I'll see how, the reaction to this planting is at the Toronto show, and then, I could submit it for the US National show eventually. Canadian trees can't win prizes in the US National show, but they, can be certainly appreciated. That is looking good. Okay, I think it's time to give the planting a water. All right, here I go with the water. So there's no drainage hole, so I'll fill it right up to the brim and then drain the excess off. So here I go. This should help settle the soil in amongst the roots too. Okay, I think that's full. I can see the water level up here and it's not draining anymore. So what I'll do is I'll just tilt the composition up like that, and you can see the excess water running out. So that works really, really well. So next I want to moss up around the tree. I'll use the same moss that came off of the tree just to give it a real natural kind of look. It's very important in these natural compositions that you don't see the bonsai soil, otherwise it spoils the illusion. It makes it look, like someone planted it instead of just being a natural tree in nature. So you can see the moss is really helping. I think to really bring out the best in this display, I'm going to get a tray here, and I'll place the planting on top of this tray, and then I'll surround it with moss, and I think that'll give a real natural look to the surrounding area. So I'll add a layer of sand first, something for the moss to grow on, and it'll make the log look a little more natural. It'll look like it's planted, part of the ground, not just placed on top of something. It'll be sort of sunken into the landscape just a little bit. Give it that extra natural look. The goal of these natural plantings is to make them look like they were never touched by the human hand. Okay, I'll just give it a watering to kind of level the sand in place now. So here I go. That's looking good. Next, I'll get the moss planted, and I'll put the shorter moss up front, so the longer moss is in the background. You can see that moss soaking up the water nicely. Normally I use a finer moss, but I think in this case, with the wild nature of this planting, I think the coarser moss looks quite good. I haven't forgotten about the little Tsuga, so I'm going to plant that in this rectangular pot. This is a Chinese pot. So I'll just do a little root pruning and get the tree planted. I've got the little Tsuga planted. Just to keep it more upright, I'm going to place a little stone beside it, just to support the trunk until it gets a little stronger. Okay, it's time to water the tree. There. Okay, I'll put that on my little miniature bonsai bench, and we'll see how it does over this summer. My work on the naturalistic nursery log with the bear is complete. Let's fly in now and have a final look at the composition. I really enjoyed working with this Canadian hemlock tree. I think it's a good use of this material, combining it with a naturalistic landscape. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.